Hello friends, happy Story Kit Crush Friday. This week, Krystal and I are continuing our adventures in the Learn Story Kit, and here are the pieces for my project today. So I have this photo of my sister blowing bubbles with my nephew, and then I have this thing where I use a clipping mask to mask a photo of Noah in a digital stamp, and then I have a little tag booklet I made with some more pictures that I wanted to include in the project, as well as my journaling. So I'm going to quickly insert a little clip here from Photoshop where I show how to do something like this if you're interested, and then we'll come back and continue the project. Hey friends, so by now I've already shown you the bits and pieces of the project, the pages that I'm using for my project, and I thought I would show you quickly how to make a clipping mask, because it's one of these things that is easier to just show you rather than explain to you. And I used to use clipping masks in my project all the time, and then I stopped doing them, and they're just a really fun, like really high impact thing to add to your layouts that doesn't take much know-how. Like, it literally takes a few keystrokes to get there, and I think they're really fun. So you'll have already seen what I do with my clipping mask, but I have a 6.75 by 8.25 canvas, which is the size I work on in Photoshop. It's like the standard size that I do all my hybrid work on, because I work outside of the page protector. And I have this stamp from the Learn Story Kit, and this is what I built my entire layout around, because when I saw this, the first thing I thought about was telling a story about Noah, because he's my favorite boy, so it's really easy to tell stories about him. So here it is. Now, so I'm going to select this, and I'm going to copy it and paste it on my canvas. So now here's how it looks on the canvas, and you'll notice it is not filling it up. So we're just going to transform this. So I hit Command T, which opens the transform dialog. And if you hold the Shift button as you transform, it keeps the scale of the original shape. So you're not like ruining the scale of it. So here it is if I just kept the scale of it. And I wanted it a little bit bigger. So I literally just went in and stretched it out a tiny bit. That was like pretty much all I felt comfortable stretching it out, because I didn't want it to be too big. So now I'm just centering it, and that's what that purple line means, that it's hit the center of the vertical plane. So here we are. Now I have this photo of Noah. This is the photo that I masked this in. So here's the photo of Noah, and I placed it right on my canvas, and I've actually been playing around with this a little bit, so it's huge. What I did was I resized it a tiny bit so it was a little bit bigger, because I wanted Noah to be in the center of the picture. There we go. So I wanted Noah to be in the center of the picture, pretty much here. And then all I have to do is make sure that Noah, the photo, is on top of the layer with the PNG file. This only works if it's on top. And then you right click on this, and it's going to give you a full dialog. You hit Create Clipping Mask, and you see it just masks Noah in the shape of that stamp. So this works well with, like, one, big stamps that have a lot of real estate, and two, it works well with like really graphic fonts. Like, this wouldn't work as well with a scripty font, but because it was this big, I don't know if this looks like sans serif, like I'm not going to pretend to know fonts, but because it's this big font, you can still see his face, and you can still see that it's a picture of Noah in the grass masked in that. And then I printed that on transparency, and I thought it was a really fun element. So the other thing I did was I knew that I wanted to do some stamping on my journaling. So I opened, again, a 6.75 by 8.25 canvas, and I measured the stamp that's in the physical stamp set. I measured the size of it, and I opened the digital stamp. So this is what the Learn stamp looks like. And I placed it on my canvas 4 times, and I made sure to resize it. So it was 2.5. It's 2.5 by 1 1/4. That's the size of the physical stamp. So I resized it so it was the correct size. And that way I could put my journaling and then make sure I left myself a placeholder for my story. Now I can just go in and turn off all of these. So it's going to print with just the journaling, but the journaling is the perfect size that I can stamp next to all of these things that Noah is learning, and I get a new list layout that I'm going to put my transparency piece over it. So that's pretty much what I did behind the scenes. I mean, the cool thing I did was that masking. Everything else is like pretty routine for me, which is resizing photos, but I thought that'd be a really fun tip if you have any digital stamps and you haven't thought about masking photos in your stamps. then here's an idea for you. So I'm going to stop talking now. We're going to go back to the process. Okay, so that's how I did the fun hybrid stuff, and that is why hybrid will always be my jam, because you can always do little things like that that are really interesting. So from here, I'm going to turn this 4x6 card into a pocket. So one of the things Krystal and I were talking about is how I never use my journaling cards. Like every month we kill these kits, and I always have a million journaling cards left. So I'm going to make an effort to actually use my journaling cards on projects. And since I rarely use pockets, like I can't use journaling cards in a traditional way, so now we gotta come up with more interesting ways for me to use my journaling cards. So this is just a small scoreboard. I forgot that I had this small one in my stash. So I was constantly reaching for my giant Martha Stewart one, which is 12 by 12. And sometimes you don't need a 12 by 12 scoreboard. I rarely need a 12 by 12 scoreboard. Typically, like I'm scoring like 6-inch wide things. So when I remembered that I had that one in my stash, it made me super happy. So here's what I did, guys. I took this card and I made it into a little pocket. So here is how I'm going to be using this card on this spread. Now, somebody's probably like freaking out somewhere about the like terrible thing that I just did to these journaling cards, but this is the only way I'm actually going to use them, is if I cut them up and I do different things with them, and I am not attached to paper. Like as long as I'm using these products to help me tell stories, they are doing what Allie intends for them to do. So if I have to cut things up and make things into pockets to help me tell my stories, that is what I'm doing. So I took this card that said you are capable of amazing things, and I scored it at 1 1/4 and at 4 3/4 on the long side, and then I scored it at 1 inch on the short side to make that pocket. And you just saw me whip out my Teflon bone folder, which is like the Teflon bone folder is one of those things that I didn't have in my craft room that I didn't realize I was missing, but it is making like scoring things so much easier. So I'm so glad I have one, and we are just popping holes and things going everywhere. But I need to punch the holes so I can make sure that things are where they're supposed to be. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna adhere this pocket directly down to the picture of my sister and Noah, and I needed to punch the holes so I could see exactly like how far from the edge it had to be, so that I left myself enough space. So I'm just gonna use my T-square to kind of roughly help me put this down straight so I don't like completely ruin this. Actually, never mind, I'm gonna wing it. That looks pretty straight to me. And if it's not, all right, that looks pretty straight to me. And then I just used some Ideology loop pins. These are from Tim Holtz. I will link everything in the description box. I love these little loop pins. So I took this as a transparent tag from the Learn Story Kit, and I printed some 3x4 photos of Noah. No journaling, but I just wanted, I wanted this picture of him, and then I have this picture of him running away, which I just thought was super cute. So I have these 2 pictures of Noah with the tag that is just gonna go right into this pocket that I created from that 4x6 card. And let's just make sure my pocket functions the way it's supposed to. There we go. So that hangs out right in that pocket, and I already know that I want to do some sort of embellishing with that, so I'm gonna pull out the chipboard from the kit and see if there are any banners that work. I like this one that says bring on the wisdom. You see, chipboard is like the first thing that I go through in my story kits because I love chipboard so much. So I go through it so fast. So there we go. We're going to add that green piece that says bring on the wisdom. I had my black archival ink on my desk because I thought I was going to stamp on this photo, but I kind of like this as is. So that's that for this side. And then, like you saw in my Photoshop little snippet thing, the plan is to stamp on this with rainbow colors. Now, I am like alternating between wanting to do this with my Misty and wanting to do this by hand. If I do it by hand, it will be so much faster than trying to do it with my Misty, but I haven't stamped anything by hand in such a long time So the idea of having to do this, sorry if you guys hear that, my cat is just being really naughty and my husband is ignoring her while she makes all the noise. The thought of having to do this by hand is a tiny bit terrifying, but we're going for it. So I'm pulling out the Learn stamp, the stamp that just says Learn. And again, if you watched my quick Photoshop snippet, you will see my plan for this page. So I just did some list style journaling of things Noah's learning, because we get to watch him grow, right? And that's the fun part about being the grown-up in his life, is we get to watch him grow. Now, I am going to pull out a little bit of scrap paper because I am not so brave that I will stamp directly on my journaling without testing my stamps. So I have a little bit of scrap paper. We're just gonna, there we go, that looks pretty good. So I'm using some scrapbook.com hybrid inks and I'm basing it off of the colors of that journaling card. That's what I base my ink choice off of. All right, so that was actually pretty good. And if the rest of them stamp that cleanly, we will be fine. If they don't, I will cry and print this again and try again. That's the other beautiful part about doing hybrid things, is if I ruin it, I can just print this out and try again. And there's no need to have a meltdown. All right, so here we go. Here's with the orange. Now, I probably should have masked this, because if I had masked this, I would be sure to get my stamps down straight, but I didn't. So we are winging it and hoping that even if they aren't perfectly straight, they don't look terrible in the long run. And if they do, again, I can just print this over. Now, normally, ooh, that is not the right blue. We're going for it. I do not want to go look for more ink, but that blue is a touch too dark. It doesn't look terrible, but it is not identical to the blue that I wanted to use. Yeah, so normally when I do stamping like this, I edit it out. But since I'm not doing crazy repeat stamping, I'm literally just stamping like one word over and over. I figured we can like talk through this. So I use scrapbook.com Rubber Ducky, Orange Spice, Coastal Storm, and Confetti Pink. And again, I will link all of the ink colors I use in the description box. If you haven't tried the scrapbook.com hybrid inks, besides the Concord and Ninth inks, I think these are my favorites. The Concord and Ninth inks, the Close to My Heart inks, and these inks are my favorite. Okay, so here we go. So I have my stamping. There we go. So I wanted to leave this page. Now this page probably looks really plain to some of you, but I was worried that if I did too much embellishing, you would lose that graphic nature of the mass stamping, which is why I left it, where's my stamp block? That's why I left it as clean as I did, to make sure that you can still see that so you can still read this, and also so you can still see that there's a picture of Noah masked in it. So pretty much, I'm just looking at it again to decide. Now, so here's the thing with me. More is more, and sometimes sometimes it's okay to just leave it alone. So I kind of want to add a few of these like refrigerator chipboard pieces. So there's this one that says Embrace Learning, and I'm okay with adding these because they're white. Ooh, Learning New Tricks. I like that one too. All right, so I'm just gonna add one of these at the bottom. I just like I love these little chipboard pieces. Well, I'll add 3 of them. That's what I'll do. We'll add 3. You see, Tashiana can't leave well enough alone. I was looking at it and I was like, this is perfect. But I was like, but you know what? It needs more stuff. So I'll add 3 of these tiny little chipboards in a visual triangle. Some big lessons learned, learning new tricks. Ooh, and learning from mistakes. Isn't that the truth when you have a 1-year-old running around causing all sorts of chaos? Learning from mistakes is the absolute truth. All right, let's take a look at that. I'm gonna put all my tools away so I can see things. I am really happy with that. So I'll tell you quickly what I wrote about. So I wrote, for one, I wrote, you are learning the sound of your own voice. And while sometimes it is enough to make me tear my hair out, and other times when you pull out your storybook and read it to me, your chubby fists trying to turn the page and failing, so you read the same page over and over, it is the sweetest thing I have ever heard. 2, you are learning independence faster than I would have liked. I want you to be small and to need me and your mom and your dad and your grandparents forever, and you are already off to the next hurdle you can jump over, the next table you can climb, and the next obstacle you can knock over. It is enough to make me want to beg you to stop and slow down so you can be my sweet baby a bit longer. 3, you are learning fine motor skills, and I have watched you evolve from grabbing and missing things to a softer and more refined pincer grasp as you learn the world around you through touch and through putting everything in your mouth, and that is one thing I wish you would stop. And it is such a wonder to watch you hit each milestone and to celebrate the wonderful little boy you are becoming. 4, you are learning how to expand your palate beyond your mother's milk, and wows, you want to eat everything all the time. Your mother is sure that she knows what your favorites are, and I'm assuming that it's mother's intuition since you can't actually talk. But there is no plate or snack safe from your puppy dog eyes and your grabby little hands. I am hoping I will learn to tell you no someday, but I'm not holding my breath. And there we go. Some quick list style journaling of things that I am noticing Noah learning, coupled with this photo of him and his mother at the park and this mass photo of him just running around and being the absolute delight that he is. I think this is a wonderful story to tell with the Learn Story Kit. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're so inclined. Let me know what you thought about this page in the comments, and if it inspires you to give any of these other techniques a try. Also, let me know if you enjoyed that quick little masking thing that I inserted, and if you want to see more peeks at my hybrid process. But that's all I have for you today, guys. So don't forget to check Krystal's channel to see what she's making this week. Her channels are always linked in my description box since we do Story Kit Crush every Friday. So don't forget to hop on over to see what she's up to. Until next time, keep it crafty and have the very best day, and I will see you around. Bye!